What's up, everybody? Welcome to the OverChurched podcast. My name is Justin.
And my name's Delicia.
And we're your hosts. We are here because we just want to create a space for people to have a safe space to process maybe some of the things that have hurt them or they've rejected or they're just over in the church world. Yeah. They still love Jesus, but they're not satisfied with how the people who represent Jesus have portrayed his bride. And our goal is to bring beauty, to bring accountability to areas, and to be transparent about things that we've seen, we've experienced, or we've done as leaders in the church. We're not trying to throw rocks at glass homes. We're trying to rebuild this glass home, because at the end of the day, we believe that the bride of Christ is, he calls us beautiful, and he loves us. And so that's the challenge. That's the tension we're going to be wrestling with today and every other time we gather. So thanks for taking the time to listen.
Yeah, I'm excited. So what's our topic for today?
Well, I've been really on this kick. I've been reading Psalms 37 a lot, and it says this, verse 23, "The Lord directs the steps of the godly. He delights in every detail of their lives. Though they stumble, they will never fall, for the Lord holds them by the hand." And I was thinking, this whole chapter is just David's going on and on about the blessings and the benefits and the characteristics of the godly, and he contrasts between the godly and the wicked, and just how God delights in the godly and all these things. And it's like, man, I want to be that, Yeah. And it had me thinking, just we lead a church now. We just started a church a couple of months ago. Well, 6, whatever. And I know that our heart is, our motto is, our vision is love, live, and lead like Jesus. That's what we say. That's what we believe. That's what we desire. But I don't think we're special or different in that aspect. I think every single church starts off, they might not word it that way, but at the end of the day, that's their heart, is to love, live, and lead like Jesus. But yet we live in a society where, the reason people are overchurched is because they've seen so many leaders fall, or they've been dropped, themselves. And I was wondering, has the church as a whole, and I say not every single church, but just too many, have we settled for good instead of pursuing godliness? Have we got so caught up in just being good at growing, good at reaching people, good at preaching, good at worship? Like, are we so enamored with doing church good that we're not doing it godly in a lot of times?
Wow, that's something to really wrestle with for a lot of people, because I think automatically people would say, no, that's not us, or that's not me, or but I had this conversation, and tell me if this is along the lines of what you're saying, is that somebody was telling me a leader in a church told a girl that, gave her some poor advice, gave her some just basically sat her down from something because of a mistake that she made, or that she had owned up to and everything. And so this friend of theirs was really upset with the leader, of just why would they say that? Why would they take them down? And then I was like, well, what's the follow-up action for that? What's the plan for that individual and stuff? And she was like, there was none. It was just you can no longer do this. We're taking this away. When yet this girl was confessing, almost saying I've messed up, I've made a mistake, and being honest in that way, and still had to step back. And she was not endangering anybody or anything like that. It was her own personal struggles, and nobody would have known about but she chose to share that because the friend encouraged her to tell her leaders. And so, so with that, I think that in those moments, I think that us as pastors, what I was telling her was, because she was upset with the leader, this friend, and I was like, the one thing that that I'm learning now as a lead pastor is that I I can't be everything, and I was never meant to be. Like, so once I became a pastor, I didn't get this training on hard conversations or how to like really like counsel people. Like, we didn't all go through this training in most cases of like, yes, you learned about the Bible and the history of the Bible, but we don't learn about how to deal with people. Like
everybody doesn't have a degree in like counseling or therapy.
Yeah. Like that's just
but yet we're called to counsel.
But yet
and
we're called to
help the hurting, which is therapy. Yeah.
And when you might really suck at it. And then like, even I think I've told you before of just like, you don't have to feel like you have to be all things. Like lead in your strength. And I think that just goes back to the godliness of having the picture of that, of just like, is this, am I responding to this person how God wants me to, how he's called me to, or am I just so focused and fixated on what it looks like to everybody? And
does it look good?
Yeah. Does it look good? Is it just about what looks good? And, I can't have this. Like, they're just so used to
keeping the image of good.
Yeah. And that's kind of, so when you said that, that's what it really reminded me of just like,
I can see that.
But I don't know, like if there was another.
I mean, I wasn't thinking of it from that. That's not wrong. That's a whole nother perspective of looking at it. Like, of like, are we, cause again, I do believe in accountability. Yeah. So it's like what would have been the godly way to handle that situation where this girl stumbled, but how do we make sure she doesn't fall?
Right.
And it sounds like that interaction was detrimental to her faith in the church and things like that because she felt like she was dropped, when she tried to own up. And again, I think anytime someone stumbles, do we need to remove them from a platform? Probably, you know what I mean? Like you don't need to be, if you're drunk and wobbly, like I don't need to like expose you on that or like 100%. Keep like, we could, but again, like there should definitely be a process of restoration and healing and helping hey, this isn't what identifies you. This mistake isn't what's going to be the defining moment for you.
Yeah.
And
instead of just saying because of this issue you have or something you struggled with or whatever the case might be, that's why we're removing you. But what are you telling them to allowing them to be able to be in this place of they feel broken.
Yeah.
So how are we going to help them restore in that way? Like,
also, will they ever tell you anything again?
Yeah. And what's the plan? Like, I just feel like the follow-up, if we are called to be godly people, then we have to like actually have those action plans of like, come follow me then. And what does that look like? And helping people and caring for people in that way, or don't have the conversation and have somebody else have the conversation.
It's funny you saying all that because in Psalms 37, verse 27, it says, the godly offer good counsel. They teach right from wrong. But even in verse 28, for the Lord loves justice and he will never abandon the godly. So I think this whole thing of, hey, we got to make sure it looks good.
Yeah.
Good is a slippery slope, versus what's the godly thing to do? Absolutely. What is just? Like, do what's justice. We're not giving people free passes for sin.
Right.
We're not giving people free passes to, be poor leaders, but also the godly thing is we don't abandon.
Yeah.
He will never abandon God. Like when you do a godly thing, especially when you're not exposed and you choose to expose, that's the most godly thing you can do is say, I'm stumbling. I'm struggling in this area. I'm exposing myself. I'm confessing myself. That's godly.
Yeah.
So it's like that person needs grace and assistance versus someone that's secret sin. So I agree with everything you're going. I hadn't even thought of it from that aspect. I was thinking it more from the aspect of like churches of like, how many of us, like I said, we're starting a church and we have a godly motive.
Yeah.
But I think every single church starts off that way.
Right.
And however, we're starting to see so many, especially in America, so many churches or leaders fall, and you're like, and now people are they don't trust the church. They don't trust leaders. They're almost looking for reasons. And so when I read like the Lord directs the steps of the godly, he delights in every detail of their lives, though they stumble, they will never fall. I'm wondering, is it because we have so many leaders, so many pastors who are doing good and they think they're doing good, but they're living a good life, but they're not living a godly life. Because if you're godly, I think there's grace. I think of it like this. If I were to say something, not if I were, when I do, I say inappropriate, depending on what's appropriate to you. I say things all the time that people are like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think as of right now, and I say this with all humility because I don't know if it's going to come across that way. God knows my heart, and our church, our people, they know my heart. And so even if I say something that can come like, I don't know if that was politically correct, or I don't know if that's, I feel like I get a lot of grace. Like I don't really get blown up with, hey, when you said whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like people.
Yeah, not right. Yeah. Cause we're so new. And I think that for the majority, you're investing in a lot of people to know who you are. So I think they've now know who you are on and off the stage. So it's kind of like, then yes, the grace comes in.
So there's grace,
so that's
right?
the relational
because they're trusting
equity.
that he's trying to be godly. He's just a little ratchet. Okay. So there's grace when I misspeak or say something, or maybe I could have handled that better, right?
Yeah.
But when we're looking at like Hillsong documentaries being dropped,
Right.
and we're looking at the fall, you know, the fall of this pastor, the fall of this ministry, the fall of this person. It's like, man, did they get stray away from being godly because they felt like what they were doing was good? Did they get so caught up with being a good speaker, making a good church that was growing and doing good things, that they teetered the line? You know what I mean? Because good is based on what you perceive it to be, oftentimes, right?
100%. 100%. And I think that can be misconstrued all the time. Like it could be anything. It could be like, you know, people think that, I know a lot of people who want to go into full-time ministry, they think if I just get to do that, like, then I'm really living God's purpose in that way, or I'm doing good things instead of being at this secular job. Right. And it's just like, but at the end of the day, you still have to be godly.
Yeah.
And I actually recently talked to a girl, and she's desired for so long to work for a church. Yeah. And now that she's in it, she's like, she's like, the culture, like, I can't even believe, like, it's how they talk and what they say about each other and how it is. And like, and she's being exposed to it, and she's kind of like justifying it because she's like, well, we're all still doing, like, we all work for the church, so we all have good intentions. Like,
there we go. That's the word.
Is it godly though?
Yeah.
Is it godly? And then you get so caught up on your good intentions that you justify the things that are really godly or good.
You're talking, because I agree. And I think that, okay, you said culture, like, you can have a church culture that's good. Yeah. You know, on a sliding scale of whatever goodness is, but it's not godly. Right. You know? Right. And I think that starts really with the leadership, because where did that verse go? What were you about to say? Yeah, I think 100% it's about like the leadership and how that is taken. Like, do you guys make time to pray together? Do you make time to like worship together? Do you make time to actually like ask these people who are on staff with you or that you're leading personally, like where they're at with God? Like, you know, those are things that I think we all need to check ourselves on and recognize, like, and always question the fact of, is this good or is this godly? Yeah. Because you could do a lot of good things in this world that you perceive. But you can justify anything as good. Like, I was like going back to that documentary, it gave me empathy, because I realized that could be us. Yeah. Like, and it was watching that. At first I didn't want to watch it, but then we ended up watching it, and it broke my heart, not just because of how people's perception of one church is, but you saw how they're trying to categorize that as the entire, like, this is what church is, right? Yeah. Yeah. And what's also sad is because what they're negating is that Hillsong did so many good things. Yeah. Like, all the people that are bashing and all those things, it's like, but you were going there for, like, they were doing so many good things. Yeah, 100%. And that does, like, even if regardless of what happened, that doesn't change the reality of how many lives were impacted for the glory of God and how many souls were saved. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think the sad thing became when you start to believe that everything I do is good because I throw God on it, because I'm at a church. And so now it's like, was that a good investment? Well, yeah, because we're going to, you know what I mean? Like, but was it, or is that not investment, but are we spending money in a good way? Well, yeah, it's going for, these are good things and, we're going to honor whatever. And it's like, but is it godly? Because just because it's good, is it godly?
Right.
And I think when godliness is the standard, not just is it good, but I think it's a two-edged sword in a good way, because godliness focuses or requires me to examine myself first before I become so critical of someone else.
Right.
So like when we're watching this, like I'm not looking at it like, man, I can't believe that pastor did that. I'm looking at it like, oh my gosh, that could be me.
Yeah.
Because
I would have thought those things were good too. Like,
you guys are doing such good things and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, but where's the accountability? Because where was that at? You reread it. The godly offer good counsel. Where were your godly people that could give you actual good counsel, right? And it wasn't just, well, I'm leading this, so everything I do is, you know what I mean? Because you start to believe like, I'm good. I'm doing good things, Yeah. And so everything I do is good. And so where was the godly counsel to teach right from wrong? They have made God's law their own, so they'll never slip from his path, as opposed to creating our own laws. And this is how we do. And this is, and it goes back to what we talked about like last week is have we created, this own idolatry of our image? Like this is how we do it here. And it's like, but is that what he wants to be done?
Right.
And that's where it gets scary. But I think that the part of like where it's so easy to point out everyone who, well, they did this are the people that fall. It's like, well, be careful about your own life, because even just because there's no cameras or millions of people to watch it,
right?
Like you can stumble and fall too,
100%.
Thinking that you're good. You can believe that you're good, and you're not actually godly. And
there's a lot more people who think they're good.
Oh man,
just like you get in this place of, I'm a good person. And you really got to check yourself.
And that's why Jesus says there is none good, not one, only God, only God.
And you got to
Mark 10.
But it's to strive to be godly like him. Yeah. Not to be good.
Yeah. Because good isn't good enough. Yeah. Good is not good enough. And I think what I'm really seeing we're in a very dark world. We're in a very cynical world. We're in a very, we're in an evil world. We live in an evil world, which is filled with evil people. Yeah. And you know who's evil? All of us. Yeah. Like we're all, at our core, we're all evil. There is none of us who are good. It is only by the grace and mercy and blood of Jesus that we are godly, but we have to make a decision to hold on to Jesus, to focus on him, to let him be our standard for all of us. Yeah. And I love the part that the Lord directs the steps of the godly. Verse 20, Psalms 37, 23. If you guys go, just read Psalms 37. Read Psalms 37. It's so rich. Psalms 37. But anyway, 23 and 24. He delights in every detail of their lives. Though they stumble, they will never fall, for the Lord holds them by the hand. And that's what I want for myself. Wow. I want to know that I know I'm not going to do this thing perfect. Yeah. Like you said, we're trying to lead people and, you know, we're trying to counsel people and all these things. And it's like, who are we? You know, we're only by what we're led by Holy Spirit, you know? Yeah. We're not that good. No. We're not that good at anything. No. It's just the grace of God. And so I want to know that for every time I stumble, I'm not going to fall because the Lord's holding me by my hand, but the only way he can hold my hand if I've given him my hand. Right. Right. And so that's the sobering thought for me. And
you kind of think of like a father with a little toddler, like just us having a 1-year-old right now and just having to hold his hand in case he falls. Yeah. Because he's not fully, you know, walking straight, but it's like, are we ever?
That's what he said too, though. Didn't we read that part? His children, right? Yeah. I love that. So I think really our heart is for our church, but really for just the church as a whole, is that we will make a recommitment to godliness, a recommitment to godliness. It's none of us are good.
And you have and having to keep that in mind, not to put yourself down, not to be in this somber place. I think sometimes people can really go there and this go
depravity.
To this.
We're all, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, we see the people that we thought were good. They thought they were good.
Yeah.
The people we thought were good, they thought were good. They thought they were good too.
Yeah.
And I think they surprised themselves with how far they drifted. And they're like, wait, no one plans to wreck their lives, and no one plans no church leader, I shouldn't say none, but no one I know ever get into ministry in order to ruin others or to take advantage of, you know what I mean? Like they do it because in their mind, they're thinking in their own words, I'm going to love, live, and lead like Jesus. And they have a godly intention. And at some point, the intentions and the actual actions, there starts to be a disconnect. Because they think that they're doing good enough, or they think what they're good is good. And I think that we always have to come back and run it through the filter of, but is this something that he delights? Is this honoring God? Are we depending on God? Are we doing everything we can to honor him?
Right.
With our finances, with our time, with our words, with how we manage people and lead others. And I think that walking in that humility and really, I would even call it that self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I was thinking like heart posture.
Yeah.
That heart posture of like, I'm not good, but God is good.
And God is in me.
Yeah.
So let me make sure I'm holding on to the one that is in me and trusting him.
Right.
Depending on him and not believing my own hype or my own doubts too, right?
Yeah. And I think that anybody listening, and I think our prayer for you is just to have that grace for yourself, but for others.
Yep.
And to, now that you can see this difference and question yourself and take that to God for yourself, of just like wrestling with, of understanding what are the things that I'm doing that I think are good, and then the things that I know to be godly. And so, and then just having that grace for others in your life, because everybody's wrestling with that.
We all fall short.
Yeah.
Here's the last verse I want to leave us with before we head out. Psalms 37, verse 39. The Lord rescues the godly. He is their fortress in times of trouble. The Lord helps them, rescuing them from the wicked. He saves them, and they find shelter in him. And I think that's my silver lining in terms of, if I do find myself in a place where I've convinced myself I'm doing good and I'm not really doing good, the humility of turning back to God allows him to rescue me. I don't have to rescue myself. I don't have to dig myself out. It's not based on how good I can be. It's having the humility of like, I just want to turn my heart back to what honors God, no matter where I'm at, and he will rescue you. And so I hope you feel encouraged today. Hope you know that it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
We're over it, right? All of us are over putting our hope and faith in good people only to be let down. But at the end of the day, let's put our hope in Jesus. Let's all aim to live godly lives. Let's pursue friendships, relationships, churches, communities, people that are striving to be godly.
Yeah.
Not the best at but are they striving to be godly? Because I think we can. Those are the ones that if they stumble, they won't fall.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that God will rescue. And when I'm saying those, I mean us.
Yeah.
Let's be those types of people.
Love y'all. Thank you.
Love y'all. Thank y'all. See y'all next week.